in the backfield. Take a listen.
I just get the ball in. Go, big guy, go. You know, I'm cheering like the fans. That's all. It's great to have him in our backfield, man. Got a great line to block for him, and we know what type of player he is. You know, we know what type of defense we have, know what type of skill players we have here. Man, I feel like we getting there. Getting there.
Okay. Brew, do you think this gets the Ravens over the top?
Well, first, I love Lamar's demeanor. Like,
always.
He does look like what happened in the AFC Championship is past. Like, it's not still affecting him, still in his mind.
Yep.
I do think it probably has something to do with him losing weight and wanting to be more of a runner now, you know, kind of back to what he was.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah, but I love his demeanor. It looks like that won't be an issue as far as holding him back. I'm not going to sit here and predict they're getting over the hump. The hump is Kansas City, and that's a big hump to climb. But I do think I love the signing of Derrick Henry. They always have a great run game, even with just good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Now you put a legitimately great running back, and I get he's not in his prime, but Nick, his career has looked like he's one of those few guys that you know is not fading at 27 and still has it. So you put him behind that line, especially when the defense has to worry about the quarterback running. I think offensively they're going to be incredible. And I think they're right there with Kansas City. Like, I think those are the two top teams in the AFC.
So I don't know how good the offensive line is going to be. They lost 2/5 of it. We'll see. I just think, to me, that is a big question for them. I think a fair question. The Ravens led the NFL in rushing last year. And I understand the add to the strength, but Brew's point is correct, which is also why this move didn't move me as much as it might for a different team, which is they're a great running team, usually the best running team in football every year. And they do it with guys.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, J.K. Dobbins was first-round talent, I think he was first-round pick or high second-round pick, either way, but he dealt with terrible injuries. Yep. But Gus Edwards is a guy. Justice Hill is a guy. Like, those are Mark Ingram, when he was there, when Lamar won MVP, was a very good player at one point, but was nearing the end. And so it is stylistically different than any running back we've seen them have, because other than Gus Edwards, since Mark Ingram, it's been more of kind of, speedsters, slider guys and Derrick Henry is one of the biggest running backs ever. And I know I'm doing this at the end because I know it annoys you guys. The 30-year-old running back on his second team is not a good track record.
I know, but
it just
different.
Isn't. He is different, but what's same about him is his yards per carry last year were his career low. Was that
for the Titans?
But he was playing for the Titans forever.
I know, but the Titans were not a good team last year.
They weren't a good team 5 years ago. Well, 5 years ago, it was the 1 year they were.
He was probably, we're not saying he's as good as he was 5 years ago, but last year, everybody knew Derrick's getting the ball.
Yeah.
This year, it's going to be a little more
but
to
so
worry
that's
about.
the other piece of it that I am interested in, seeing Derrick Henry and, some read option stuff and things like that, which is not what we've seen from, nearly as much from him. So he is obviously still a devastating goal line threat, but that's, again, somewhere the Ravens didn't struggle before. Like, one of the reasons, Lamar has the rushing touchdown stuff is what he can do at the goal line. So I am not going to sit on TV and be anti-Derrick Henry. He's a Hall of Famer. He's been somewhere from good to excellent every year of his career. But the 30-year-old running back in a new system behind a remade offensive line in a new team is, to me, not something that typically puts teams over the top.
So Nick Wright will always have trouble, I think, complimenting any AFC team because he is just such an insane fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the closest he gets is complimenting the Houston Texans. I think because he wants to continue to build up that Dallas fan base. But listen, I don't care about the track record of other 30-year-olds. It doesn't matter. We can use the past sometimes when it's appropriate. And sometimes we have to say using the past or a track record of other players is meaningless because it doesn't matter. Okay? The average player 10, 15 years ago was not able to do what Steph Curry and LeBron James is the easy one because we say that he's such an outlier. But what about KD? What about Steph? Like, these guys are still balling at a very high level relative to what other players were doing years ago. And now, so I don't just use it as an automatic, well, they don't have a good track record in this situation. But in the part that I do agree with Nick is that I think I don't know how Derrick Henry is going to play in this situation, and I'm gonna unpack more why I think it does move the needle if all things work appropriately. But it does. I do fear that because Lamar Jackson has never had someone like a Henry, and I do fear that it was just a few seasons too late. And I know this from such strong experience. The Philadelphia teams are notorious for this. Getting great elite all-time stars, but like way past their prime. The Sixers have done this, the Eagles have done this, the Phillies have done this, and it's like, you're like, if we could just get a piece of what that guy was before, and it's always just a little too late. And I'm not saying it's a little too late for Derrick Henry and the Ravens. I'm saying I genuinely don't know, because I really don't. I mean, I think he'll still be really good, but it would just be awesome to be able to see him be elite and be with Lamar. I'd like to see Lamar really play with an all-time great, like Patrick Mahomes has done with multiple players on both sides of the ball, but obviously most famously Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, not to mention Andy Reid. And it would just be awesome to be able to see Lamar really get some of that. And I just fear that Derrick Henry, again, is going to still be great, but it would be awesome to be able to see Derrick Henry be elite. Now, to counter what Nick is saying and kind of more agree with what Brew was saying, is where he's saying this doesn't move the needle because they're already good runners. That argument makes no sense. They have a good run game. That argument makes no sense because if they were able to do some great things with average players because of either the offensive line, because of scheming, because of what Lamar Jackson can do, and so that it just changes the way the defenses are. Well, now when you have an even better, elite, great running back, you're going to be even better. So let's say with an average running back, again, because of the way how the offense is run, let's just use like very vague terms. Because of the way the offense was run, they were always really good at running the game, and they can average 5 yards a carry. And that's great, and they do it the best, and they lead the league. Again, obviously using made-up numbers here. Well, when you now insert a great, all-time great running back, you're now going to average 6 yards. And that is a huge difference. That's a massive difference. Your success rate goes so much higher. So it's going to matter. So in these very small margin games, like against the Kansas City Chiefs, like against the Buffalo Bills, like all those playoff games, they all came down to inches, to tiny little things. So you're going to tell me that Derrick Henry wouldn't have helped the Baltimore Ravens beat the Kansas City Chiefs last season in the AFC Championship game? Of course they would have. Of course. I'm not saying that they would have beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but it certainly would have helped. So I don't see how you could possibly say it doesn't move the needle. It's like having an unbelievable quarterback who's got a cannon for an arm. He's got 2 unbelievable wide receivers, and he's been leading the NFL in passing yards and an offensive production. You're going to tell me getting another great wide receiver isn't going to improve that? Of course it will. Excuse me, I sneezed on the truth. So I don't get that argument. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't. If they just said they replaced a good running back with another good running back, but just with like a little bit more, cool factor or something, right? He just has like a little bit better of a reputation. Like then, okay, sure, I could see that argument, but that's not the case. You just because you had a good run game or a good wide receiver or a good any position, and you do good within that scheme, when you improve the quality of the player, it's not hard to imagine that it's going to do you more. Now, if we want to say that Nick's argument at the heart of what he's trying to say is that their run game is already maximizing what it can do for a team, meaning they already get 100% out of what they can get out of a run game, because obviously you need other factors, defense, throwing, whatever it may be, special teams. And so if Nick is saying, listen, if there's, and these are also made up numbers, of course, there's 30 points on the board every time the the Ravens score 30 points, they win, and as long as they keep getting to 30, they're going to win the Super Bowl. And the run game can only account for 15 of those points. And throughout this whole season, they kept getting 15 points. They kept getting those 15 points. So if you improve the run game, now they can no longer, they can't get to 16, 17. This is a very specific example. And so that to me is maybe what he's trying to say, but that's not how it really works. That's not how football works. So that's why I disagree wholeheartedly with what Nick is trying to say, because if you're saying they already are maximizing what they can do on the ground, so therefore even improving that, it's just not going to get you more wins. Like, you got to actually worry about your defense, or you actually got to be able to get more receivers or special teams. Like, I get that, but you can always do things better, right? You can always improve. If you can make the opposing team score a little bit less points, even if you had a great defense, that's going to help you out even more, right? Like, what was it? The Kansas City Chiefs had one of the best defenses. I actually argue that they had the best defense last season, even if it just statistically didn't improve in that. But they were averaging like the opposing team was like 19 points a game. So under what Nick is saying, under his logic, if their defense improved and they got some other defensive pieces, they already had a great defense, so it's not going to help them. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because what if you now got, instead of giving up 19 points a game, you averaged 15 points a game? I'm pretty sure that's going to help your team win. So Nick's logic feels really flawed and doesn't really make sense to me. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens? And will that addition help the Ravens get over the hump? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.